costs are going up exorbitantly, well above the rate of inflation. So, as Rooster said, I mean, what's going on in the defense budget is a microcosm of the of what you allude to. So I don't have an answer, but I would say that, you know, in the first panel there was some talk about the national security quadrennial review, the broader context other than outside of DOD. I think that the context that was discussed there, although I think would be a step in the right direction, is not broad enough, in that, you know, what was talked about there was state and DOD and Homeland Security, and mostly looking at security from a traditional perspective, as opposed to looking at security broader or more broadly from the perspective of our economic power is a part of our national security. And so I think at some point we've got to get to do that. Now, I think doing that in the first year of an administration would be a bridge too far, because yeah, I think it's challenging enough to do a QDR, as Fran mentioned, with you know, not too many people here and from OSD, and then to do that broadly across all agencies, you would need to wait till you get more people in place.
I'm going to just piggyback on what Admiral Burke said. I think the question really is along the lines of what NATO calls level of ambition. In other words, it really is a political decision. I think the next administration and those that come after the next administration, the tension here is really about what kind of country we want to be in 50 to 100 years. You know, we've heard this many times before, but the turn of the previous century, it was the British, you know, the sun never stood on the British Empire. Arguably, the U.S. was the only remaining superpower 8 years ago at the turn of the last century. And now we've got to look at ourselves and go, well, where do we derive our superpower status from? Obviously, things like our military with nuclear weapons, the fundamental heart of strategic deterrence and other things. The size of our force, the capabilities we bring are unsurpassed in the world today from a military perspective, our economic power and our diplomatic power. But all three of those are tied together. They cannot be delinked. And unfortunately, I think the picture you painted, which is very accurate, and then I'll throw on top of that $1 trillion to bail out mortgages and banks and Wall Street and whatever else is going on, that I'm very fearful that we've created an economic bathtub that is going to undermine or possibly undermine our military power as well as our diplomatic power. And frankly, as you look around the world, there's a lot of rogue nations and actors that's exactly their strategy. That's what they want to do, is undermine that. So that's what the next administration, I mean, this administration has tried to grapple with that too, but frankly, they were handled 9/11, and that was a bad hand of cards to be dealt. We've had to dig our way through it, and it's required a tremendous amount of effort on the part of the military to do that. But we've got to take a hard look at doing something that literally is impossible, which is trying to solve our economic problems and unbury the dead. At the same time, we're trying to maintain our preeminence in diplomacy and military power.
Yeah, I'd agree that you look at 9/11 was handed to us, and it wasn't, no one predicted it. And here again, it's okay, what does our national leadership want their military to be and to be able to do and to be capable of doing, and how well? And as you look at, you know, the elements of DIME, you know, diplomatic, information, military, economic, well, the military plays in more than just the military lane under that, and we reinforce and support the others. So as we go forward, you know, we got a basic rub of tell us what you think you want us to do or be able to do, and then look at our supply and our demand capacity to do that, and look at the tasks, specifically the capabilities required to do those tasks, because that's going to derive can you do it or how well you do it. And then we get into the other aspect, which is I think all the services share, and I heard it mentioned here, it's the commitment to the soldiers and the families today, and to be able to sustain an all-volunteer force into the future. And commitments to you want a professional force, you have to pay for professional rates. We have the Wounded Warrior programs, and we're all dealing with that, the commitment to them, and then the family members who have lost someone. You know, the nation today, and I've been to numerous funerals, it's different than it was in the Vietnam era. and the support of the populace to their military is significant. And so, you know, we realize that, and it goes beyond bringing the reserve element into it. There's been a cultural change, I think, in all the services as we move forward. And we need to be able to sustain that if we're going to sustain an all-volunteer force.
Before I ask us all to thank this extraordinary panel, I want to make just a couple of quick comments, administrative in nature. Tomorrow afternoon at 4:45 in this room, we're going to be hearing from General Tony Tata, who is the Deputy Director for Operations and Training at JIDA. He'll be talking about improvised explosive devices and what we're doing to defeat them. Should be an excellent program. It'll be a short program. It'll last about an hour. On the 27th of October, we're doing a program on the junior officer shortage in the military, and I'm hopeful that we'll have several good panels of both leaders in the services and junior officers talking about that problem, which Admiral Mullen has described as you know, we've got to get it right now or we're going to be dead in 20 years. It's a huge problem. Both the Reserve Components Army and for the National Guard and the USAR are both right now just slightly over 50%, for example, in the number of captains that they have. So this is a huge problem we'll be addressing. We're going to be doing a big program on 19 November on health care delivery, with focusing on the Veterans Administration and DOD, with a number of, at the very strategic level, looking at what we're doing now, what we can do better, what are the programs out there, what are the gaps. We always do a series of programs for military legislative assistance, where we've got throughout the crowd today a number of very senior folks from Capitol Hill have joined us, and I just noticed Grace Washburn was with us, and Grace has been a great force on behalf of the Empowerment Act you saw earlier today, described by Colonel Chamberlain, and many other things of great importance to the reserve components. We do about 40 programs a year, so we'd like to just encourage you to keep track of our website. We'll try not to bother you with emails, but we'll provide notices about our programs. We'd love to get ideas that you might have about programs. John Bernstein, my colleague from the National Guard Association Educational Foundation, with whom we're co-sponsoring this, mentioned earlier we're going to do a follow-up on the QDR sometime shortly into next year, when we know just a little bit more about what we're all about, with both the focus on the AC and the RC, more or less like we did today. So with that, I would like to very much thank this extraordinary panel we had. Thank you very much, John. And we're adjourned. Sir, thank you.